Hello again everyone, welcome back to the channel, Comic Kid here, and today we will be discussing the best places to start reading Superman. Now, unlike my best places to start with Batman video, the Superman one won't really go into like other Superman stories beyond his origin, just because Superman as a character, once he becomes Superman, there's really not much else history there. He does tend to be kind of a static character throughout his history, and if you like that, great, but that is kind of why a lot of people don't like him. Personally, I don't really care. I've always been a fan of Superman. But aside from major storylines like Death and Return of, there's really no other like history for Superman that you need to get caught up on. There's not a whole lot of defining moments for his character, really up until like Rebirth at least. That's when we first get introduced to Superman's son, John Kent, and again, I'm not trying to say that any other Superman story is bad or not worth reading or anything, but they're really not essential. I do quite enjoy things like Red Son, All-Star Superman, but even those aren't canon. And so, again, like, there's not a lot of moments in Superman's history that you really need to get caught up on aside from Death and Return of. So, to get started, we have Superman's Secret Origin. This one is by Jeff Johns and illustrated by Gary Frank. This is personally my least favorite Superman origin story. That being said, it is one of the more recent ones. This story follows Superman as a boy. He's first starting to learn how to use his powers. It does kind of go back to the whole like Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes stuff. Legion does appear in this, but up until this story, Legion or the Superboy stuff was mostly retconned by John Byrne. Jeff Johns really kind of brought it back, probably because he has such a big thing for the Silver Age. Now, the thing that I don't really like about this book is that it kind of has a pacing problem throughout, in my opinion. You spend like 2 issues with him as Superboy, and he just kind of like bounces around very fast. And then later on, especially, like when he's fighting Metallo, like it's just kind of very fast, and it's slow in other parts that it really shouldn't be so slow. So, I don't know. It's not bad by any means. I know several people who do really like this. Gary Frank especially pulls from the Richard Donner aesthetic. So if you like the designs, like if you like Christopher Reeve, Superman, Gary Frank models a lot of his characters after the Richard Donner films. Now, next up, we have Superman Birthright. This one is by Mark Waid and illustrated by Lionel Francis Yu. This one is very good. Man of Steel, the movie, actually pulls a lot from this. Mostly as far as plot goes. Like, if you didn't like the Man of Steel movie, don't think that you won't like this book. Tonally, they are still very different, but like structure-wise, they're pretty similar. Like, you get the destruction of Krypton, you see Superman helping other people just like across the world however he can before he's even Superman, etc. With all that said, I feel like this is an overlooked origin story for Superman. I feel like not a people know about it that much. Not a lot of people know to come to it, but it is by Mark Waid. Most of what he puts out is very good. The artwork in this is gorgeous. And then personally, I do feel as though it is a step up from Secret Origin. Next up is Superman for All Seasons by 2 of my favorites, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. This one is a lot less origin and more of an early days Superman story. It kind of follows Clark's first days in the suit, in Metropolis and everything, and kind of coming to grips with branching out while still holding true to his roots, etc., etc. It's a gorgeous story, gorgeous artwork. The story is very well laid out, and I really have no complaints as far as this story goes. I do feel as though this is a step up from Birthright, just because it's a little shorter. Not that I have a thing against long stories or anything, but it just kind of feels a lot more personable, especially Jeff Loeb's take on the character. And so, though it's a little less of an origin, this is still a great place to start with Superman and really get a feel for his character as well. Lastly, and my personal favorite origin for him is going to be Superman Earth 1 by J. Michael Straczynski and illustrated by Shane Davis. Now, not a lot of people liked this one just because it's a little darker of an origin. That being said, it is kind of a more modern take on the character, and you really do get a sense of a much more realistic Superman. This one's a lot more tonally in line with Man of Steel. You could even say that it kind of pulls a lot from this. Just swap out Zod with the villain in this book, and you kind of have Man of Steel. Basically, if you combine this book with Birthright, you have Man of Steel the movie. With all that in mind, the reason I like this one so much is that it really shows like Superman's capability as a man. Like, he can do all these things and hide just as well, but it really helps show why he does what he does and why he chooses to do what he does. It's just a very interesting look at the character, especially at a younger age. And as far as like updates and retellings go, I definitely think this is one of the better ones. And that's everything we have for today, guys. Like I said, not a whole lot of stuff on where to go from there. Things like Earth 1 do have sequels that are both excellent, in my opinion. But as far as continuing with essential Superman stories, there's really not a whole lot. Eventually, somewhere down the line, I may do a top 10 Superman graphic novels or stories video, but strictly speaking for today, those 4 are going to be the best places to kind of get started with the character, really get a feel for him and all that. And that is all for today. Please feel free to click like and subscribe,